Okay, welcome to those folks who are joining us. Thank you for being here. We will go ahead and get started with introductions here in a few minutes. But I wanted to give you all an opportunity to shout out your home state or your school in the chat. So you can go ahead and, put in whatever identifies your school. So I would type in Go Cyclones. If I was being true to my heritage, I would put Go Huskers, but sometimes I get groans around here for that. So you can go ahead and shout out your home state or your home school in the chat there. We will be using the Q&A box though for questions that you'd like to ask our dean and our faculty. So you can go ahead and get those rolling in the Q&A box. That would be great. So we'll, like I said, get going here in a few minutes, but go ahead and shout out your home state and your school. Awesome. It's cool to see everybody's schools. We have a whole host of students coming from all over the country, it looks like. That's fantastic. So while you're finishing up that, remember to put questions in the Q&A box. That'll help us kind of be able to sort through those pretty easily. So you can ask those anonymously as well. So if there is a question that you would like to, you can either ask it with your name or ask it anonymously. You can also direct message me too if you can't find the Q&A box, but it should be right at the bottom of your Zoom window there. So without any further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get going. So my name is Dana Grooms. I'm the coordinator of recruitment here at Iowa State's College of Veterinary Medicine, which essentially means I work with pre-veterinary students wherever they're at on their journey. So I'm excited to be joined here by our dean and some of our faculty members. So Dr. Grooms, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Thank you, Deanna. Can you hear me okay, Deanna?
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight to learn a little bit more about Iowa State's College of Veterinary Medicine. So just a little bit about myself. So I've been the dean here at Iowa State for just over 3 years. Prior to that, I was at Michigan State University for about 20 years, and I saw several Michigan State connections in the chat box. So to the fellow Spartans out there. But I grew up in Ohio, and my alma mater for veterinary school is the Ohio State University. And again, I saw several Ohio folks in the chat box. So that's my background. My background before becoming a dean really is in the cattle industry. I spent 20 years, really my entire career prior to taking on this leadership role, working in the cattle industry, working with both dairy producers as well as beef producers on solving important infectious disease problems in their cattle herd. So a little bit about my background. Again, welcome, and we look forward to chatting with you and hopefully answering some of your questions. Deanna, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Grooms. Dr. Williams, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Mandy Williams. I've been here at Iowa State now for 25-ish or more years. Can't do math. I'm from all over. I'm a military baby, but grew up in Missouri, central Missouri, went to Missouri for vet school. Before that, I went to Kentucky for undergrad, so go Wildcats. And then I came to Iowa State right after finishing vet school. I came here to do a residency and PhD in veterinary pathology, and I kind of sort of fell in love with Ames and fell in love with Iowa State, so I'm still here. And I teach pathology, I do pathology, and I'm currently the department chair for veterinary pathology. So that's me.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Tipa Swami, will you go next?
Hi, good evening. I am Dr. Tipa Swami. I am professor at biomedical sciences in College of Veterinary Medicine. I have been here for almost 10 years now. I moved from England. I did my PhD over there. and I taught anatomy and did research on epilepsy and nerve injury while I was in England for about 17 years. So prior to that, I graduated from Bangalore Veterinary College in India. It is southern part of India. After my graduation, I did my master's in veterinary anatomy and surgery. So during that time, I taught in surgery department and anatomy while doing a private practice as well. So this gave me a lot of opportunity to teach anatomy from clinical perspective. That's what I have been doing here in the College of Veterinary Medicine for the past decade. So also I do research in epilepsy and also organophosphate toxicity. And I have NIH funded grants and so a couple of graduate students and postdocs in the lab. So there are plenty of opportunities for DVM students and also undergraduate students to work in my lab.
Awesome, thank you. And Dr. Carrick.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel. I grew up in southeastern North Carolina and went to undergrad at UNC and vet school at Mississippi State, and then ultimately ended up in practice out in Guyman, Oklahoma for several years, and got invited to join the faculty here at Iowa State in 2003, and I planned on staying for about 4 years, and here we are in 2022. So I like what Dr. Williams said about them. It just seems like the right place and the right fit, and it's a great place and I like it. So things have worked out well in that respect. I get to do swine medicine primarily. About half of my time is spent teaching, and about half is practicing with veterinarians in the field and working on applied research cases. I'm director of the Swine Med Education Center here at Iowa State, and we get to work with schools all over the country.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for being here. So I'm going to do just a couple of announcements here, since it looks like we've got a lot of our folks on. So one is, if you enjoy this panel, we're going to have a financial aid webinar that you can join us on next Thursday. So I put the link to register for that in the chat. And just a reminder, I'm sure you all know, but our offer date is February 15th. We tend to do those in the evening, so like at the end of the business day. So don't stay up till midnight. And I mean, you might be staying up till midnight, you know, studying or something like that, but you don't need to stay up till midnight just to check your status on, you know, at 12:01 a.m. on February 15th. Your decision will not be up then. So get some sleep, go to class, do whatever you want to during the day. And then right around the end of the business day, that's when you would, you know, go and check your status. Decision, so that's our offer date. And then you would need to make your decision at least by April 15th. Of course, if you know you're excited to come to Iowa State before that, you can absolutely let us know. Or if you've chosen another school, you can let us know that too. So those are all the housekeeping things. So a lot of you all talked about, you know, being here for a long time, right? So one of the first questions, you know, that came in just right after we, you know, got going here was, what's your favorite thing about working at Iowa State? So, you know, you've all been here for a while, but what is the thing maybe that keeps you here? So maybe I'll start with the person I think who's been in Ames the longest, which is Dr. Fales Williams. Is that okay?
That's perfectly okay. And it cracks me up because I keep thinking I've just got here. I can't possibly be the person who's been here the longest, but that is actually the truth. So, you know, it's a great school, and I came here as a resident because I wanted to learn how to teach. People who advised me when I was a veterinary student trying to decide where to go for a path residency, they knew that I liked to teach. They knew that was an interest of mine. And I heard from multiple people that if I wanted to learn how to teach, I needed to come to Iowa State. And so I did. Teaching is really important here. It's an expectation to teach well here. It's not good enough just to go in and say some words and walk out and throw some tests at students. That's not going to cut it. It matters. It matters that students are learning and that teachers are responsive to how we can teach better. What else has kept me here? The fact that I am a full professor, and I did that through primarily through education research, not sitting in a lab. Don't get me wrong, lab research is wonderful. I can do it. I'm just not all that thrilled about doing it. I'd rather understand why students learn or what challenges students in a way that we can fix and make it easier. Iowa State values that. Iowa State values people who are committed to teaching, and that's really, really important to me at a core level. And so I get to work among other people who feel similarly. It's been a challenge the last couple of years for everybody everywhere, but in this building, people have pulled together. We've been creative, we've been innovative, we've been tested, and we've been, through a lot, just like the students have been too. And I think we're stronger for it. I'd like for COVID to end any day now, but I really can't imagine going through this with a different set of people and still being as pumped up and motivated to come into work to see what challenge can we fix next. And so that's what keeps me coming back.
Awesome, thank you. So Dr. Carricker, I think that means you're next.
Well, I mean, being from the Southeast, it's clearly the weather, right? I mean, it's fantastic here in the summertime, and look forward to it every year. No, I think for me, it's a whole lot about the people and about the attitude. I probably had the best opportunity I've ever had to move on to somewhere else near the very beginning of the pandemic, actually. And my thought process at that time was, I don't want to face what's coming down the pipe with any other group of people. It's the teamwork, it's the collaboration, we value being useful to people. It's not just the esoteric pursuit of things, and teaching is really valued. I think Dr. Williams hit it on the head. It's expected to be high quality, and there are career paths at Iowa State for faculty that are focused on teaching. So it's not a secondary activity. A lot of universities, the academic pathway is through research for faculty to advance, and that's not the case here as much. So I've really enjoyed that. And then high quality problems. Our diagnostic lab is involved in food animal and companion animal health around the world, and so we get to see those problems and get to work on it. Makes it a lot of fun.
Great, thank you. Dr. Tipa Swami.
Okay, I should start from my student days. So when I was a student of anatomy, we had two textbooks. One is Getty Anatomy, that is gross anatomy, published by the professor of anatomy in biomedical sciences in this College of Veterinary Medicine. That was 1980s. And then Delman Histology, that is a gold standard histology textbooks that we referred. And I never dreamt that I would be teaching in the same department as I was, a student looking at those books. So that is the standard. That is the textbooks that were published from this college. There are several textbooks. So that was something at the back of my mind. And when I was working in Liverpool at University of Liverpool, I have been teaching anatomy. And also I was researching. So there were not plenty of research funding opportunities in the UK. So I was looking at two opportunities. One, I should balance my teaching and also research. So where should I go for? So my target has been this university, this college. So I got here about 10 years ago, and my career path has progressed rapidly here. And it is a great working environment, very supportive faculty and colleagues, very friendly atmosphere here. So there is plenty of opportunity to grow myself, and also helping students to grow and achieve their dreams, especially in the first semester of their DVM course. So we will talk about that a little bit more later on.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Grooms.
So I'm just going to offer some commentary. I've been here at Iowa State now just over 3 years. What attracted me to Iowa State really is the excellence that is known across our profession that is epitomized by Iowa State University. You've heard several people talk about the excellence, whether it's excellence in teaching, whether it's known for anatomy textbook that Dr. Swami talked about, whether it's the excellence in service provided by our diagnostic lab. I realized and understood that excellence as a faculty member for 20 years at another institution. And so when the opportunity arose to come to be part of such an excellent College of Veterinary Medicine, for me, it was a no-brainer. And the 3.5 years that I've been here have only really helped to cement what I already knew about Iowa State. Just a couple things, though, I just wanted to touch base on. Dr. Williams, Dr. Carrick, Dr. Swami, you are looking at 3 award-winning teachers here at Iowa State, and not just award-winning within the college, but award-winning within the university, award-winning at national levels. As Dr. Williams, we really celebrate excellence in education here at Iowa State, and it's not we just don't talk about it, but we also practice it. We have people that are dedicated to teaching our teachers to be excellent teachers. I know I used teachers 3 times there, but we have teachers that teach our teachers to be excellent teachers. We have professional educators in our college that help us to be excellent educators, because we're so dedicated to making sure that the training that you receive here at Iowa State is as best as it can be, so that you can really meet your career aspirations. So I think that's important. Number one, Dr. Carrick talked about the people. The people that work here in the College of Veterinary Medicine, and whether it's faculty or staff, they are dedicated to the missions of our college. And those missions are education, it's research, and it's providing service to the people of Iowa, and really to the people of the United States and around the world. And without those people, without those excellent people, we would not be the excellent university that we are. And then the last thing I'll just mention, and this kind of comes back to what Dr. Swami talked about with a textbook that was authored by a faculty member here at Iowa State University. This college is the oldest College of Veterinary Medicine in the United States. Public College of Veterinary Medicine. It's been around for 143 years now. The excellence started in 1879 and has continued today in 2022. A long legacy of training veterinarians and scientists to really meet the needs of society around the world. And I'm really, really darn proud of what this college does.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna send this question to you, Dr. Grooms, but I'd like to hear from anybody else who wants to chime in as well. So one of the most kind of popular questions that we have is, with the intensity of veterinary school, what initiatives does ISU take for helping their students and their mental health?
Great, Deanna, thanks for that question. And it's a great question. Certainly, we understand that not only the training program for veterinarians is difficult and demanding, but really the profession of being a veterinarian can be difficult and demanding. And so we think it's really important to start from the get-go here in the College of Veterinary Medicine of providing resources and avenues to make sure that you're doing everything possible to take care of yourself, both physically as well as mentally. And so there's lots of things here at the College of Veterinary Medicine that we provide to help our students thrive in our curriculum, as well as to take care of themselves both physically and mentally. So some examples, and I'm going to miss some things, and maybe Dr. Williams or Carrick or Dr. Swami can chime in, but things such as we have an exercise room here, a gymnasium. Our College of Veterinary Medicine is physically located about 2 miles from main campus, where most of the exercise facilities are. So it's difficult for our students to get from our campus over to some of the exercise facilities. So we have a dedicated exercise room with treadmills and weights and bicycles and all the things that you might see in an exercise facility. We have full-time mental health counselor here that is available to work with students that are experiencing some mental health conditions, whether it's anxiety or even worse. So we have somebody here that can help our folks deal with the stresses of the curriculum and stresses of life. And certainly during COVID, those types of things have been amplified. We continue to look for ways to elevate wellness within our student population. Another example of that would be when I first came here in 2018, so probably in the spring of 2019, we implemented a policy that limited the amount of time that students had to spend within the clinics during their clinical training year in their 4th year. So, previous to that, sometimes students would spend, maybe up to 18 to 24 hours in the College of Veterinary Medicine in a clinical hospital. We set a policy that limited the amount of time that students could be within the clinics without having a break to get rest, take care of themselves. So those are some of the things we continue to work on to improve the environment for everybody, but most importantly, to set up our students for success when they graduate from the college and become that professional veterinarian. So Dr. Carrick or Williams, Dr. Swami, you can add to that as well.
I would just offer up that probably an important component of it is there is no double standard about that with respect to faculty, for example. I mean, it's pretty clear that number one, that the college cares about my wellness, but also that it would like to see me model that for students, not just talk about it, but model it and behave that way. And I think that's really important. That's been a new area for me, even as long as I've been in veterinary medicine. It's not something that was on the radar really when I was in veterinary school, and to understand the long-term benefits and the value even in the short term, it's been a great experience for me. And I like the fact that we're encouraged to walk the walk and not just talk the talk at all levels here.
Dr. Carrick, can I ask you, and maybe I'll ask everybody to share what you do for both physical and mental well-being. So as an example, for anybody that really cares, I officiate high school football, and that's what I do for both physical and mental wellness. And it's something I talk about openly and how it's important for me. Dr. Carrick, how about you?
Well, I'll tell you, so it sort of works on two fronts. I mentioned I'm from the Southeast, and maybe the only thing that I'm missing there is the food, right? So I've learned how to cook a lot better, and I've learned how to recreate recipes from places that I enjoyed when I was growing up and things like that. And then also to do that in a lot healthier manner. So that's been a big deal for me, and something that I really enjoy doing.
I'll go. I take ballet lessons, which my children made me do it. They were the bad influence there, so I blame them. But I dance ballet and occasionally perform in the Nutcracker. So that's it's a minimal time investment. I could definitely spend a lot more time doing it and getting even more physical benefits out of it. But it's a good mental break to stop thinking about whatever it is I'm worried about and try to remember my left from my right, which takes a lot more brain space than you think. But it's a really nice way to step away just for a moment and get some good benefits out of that.
Personally, I never skipped walking or doing yoga. So whether I have got several grants to write or papers to publish or teach a lot, so I keep myself, active physically, and of course, helping my wife in the kitchen and cleaning things. Of course, that's all things makes a bit lighter. In the lab, especially with respect to supporting students' wellness, this is something we are mindful, and I will give just a quick example. There was a visitor from another vet school. So they were touring our lab, anatomy lab, and they also sat in my lectures. And the amount of fun we had during lecture, and I give about 20 minutes, after 20 minutes of my lecture, I will give a break and run some funny videos. And it is nothing to do with the subject, and just they laugh. And then in the anatomy lab, so we have one senior faculty. He just goes around. His main job is, in addition to teaching, is to keep students, motivated to learn and also talk to them and stress level. And first time you guys will be in anatomy course. It is just cracking jokes and And those visitors told us, wow, we never saw students smiling and laughing in anatomy labs because it is so stressful. So we are mindful about the amount of stress involved, especially in the first year. So we do remind about your maintaining your routines like reading books, going to gym, and keeping your pets with you if you can. So those are the things we keep reminding, and we are not just only checking about your academic progress. We also keep talking to you about how you are coping, and if you need any support. So certainly there will be a lot of support.
Great, thank you. And thanks for that follow-up question. I knit. So I knitted a sweater for my dog over winter break, which was an achievement. It was somewhat stress relieving, but kind of stressful too. So, but yeah, it's good to kind of have that mental break within your day too. So, so we've got a question here. Is there any way that students can get hands-on experiences before their clinical work begins? So kind of, I'm going to follow up with what rotations are available during the clinical year, because we've got a good listing on our website for that. But Dr. Carrick, do you mind kind of taking that question first, and then the rest of the panel can kind of chime in too?
Yeah, so mostly I'd be aware of a lot of what's on the food animal side, but I think also a lot of this is replicated in companion animal and wildlife. And so there are a ton of extracurricular opportunities with the club organizations that exist and are fairly prolific. You can find a club with just about any focus you can imagine, and they're pretty active in setting up wet labs and experiences to tour various locations and organizations, things like that. They bring in, they create opportunities to go to farms, things of that nature. We have a lot of applied research, which means a lot of direct animal work. And so if you have an interest in that, it's pretty easy to find an opportunity to tag along. And in fact, in my group, we've been on farm every day this week and every day last week. And I think we had an undergraduate and a veterinary student from the earlier years that wasn't technically on any clinical rotation tag along on every one of those visits. And so those opportunities exist, and it dovetails from my perspective with the advice I'd give an entering student, which is find people who have a similar interest and, track them down and express that interest, because faculty enjoy nothing more than somebody who's interested in what they are. And I bet you'll find ways to get incorporated really quickly in those activities and get a chance to experience them and gain some skill set.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to kind of chime in on extra or kind of hands-on activities before that clinical year?
Sure, I'll just add that there's always, every year, a lot of service labs in the building advertise for a student assistant as an hourly worker. And so I know we have several veterinary students and some undergraduate students working in our labs right now. So it's a great chance to earn some money, but to see a lot of cases and sort of get some additional insight to how things work. So there's that aspect. Plenty of times I've had first or second year students ask if they can come spend a day watching necropsy. So that's usually an opportunity as well. Or there's the clubs. There's a lot of clubs where you can get hands-on experience. There's a really active PATH club here. So there's speakers and wet labs, but for all the specialties, there's always a wet lab that's being organized for one thing or another around here. So I'd say there's always the opportunity. And like Dr. Carrick says, if you talk to somebody that is in the field that you're interested in, I mean, we'll drop everything to talk to you about how cool that area is, and we'll talk your ear right off. So you might want to be careful about how much time you have to hear about it. But if we know that there's somebody that wants more time in that area, we'll go a long way to make sure you can find that time.
And if I can just jump in here, so I certainly understand and certainly was in the shoes of a student who was looking for how can I get those hands-on experiences prior to the clinical training phase of veterinary school. You know, I love to advocate for what I like to call value-added experiences, and those are things such as summer research programs. So it's not a clinical program, but it's an opportunity to get a value-added experience in research that will be valuable regardless of where your career takes you. Okay, whether it's in clinical practice or whether it's in public health or policy, it doesn't really matter. Having that exposure to research and scientific process is incredibly valuable. Dr. Carrick talked about we have summer programs, the summer veterinary internship program, both on the swine and bovine side. Again, just some really great hands-on experiences that may have a clinical application, but have some other value-added experiences that are going to be valued, again, regardless of what you do. I run a summer program called the Dean's Summer Leadership Program. And it's all about developing leadership skills in our students that they then can use, again, anywhere in their career going forward, whether it's running a clinic or whether it's getting involved with organized veterinary medicine, or whether it's thinking about a leadership role in a college of veterinary medicine. And so I understand the importance of getting those clinical experiences, maybe during your first and second year, and we provide those opportunities as part of the curriculum. But I would continue to advocate, think about some value-added experiences that will further broaden your exposure to things and make you even more valuable to potential employers when you graduate from Iowa State.
Just quickly add to what Dr. Grooms mentioned just now about the research opportunities. There are several labs. They will be looking for DVM students to work in their labs. I do have 2 DVM students working in my labs. So that is opportunity. And also in laboratory animal resources as well, they are looking for students to work in the laboratory animals, looking after rodents. That is a great opportunity. And one of the TAs who was working in anatomy lab, she was working in laboratory animals, and then she, developed interest in there, and now she's a veterinarian in laboratory animal resources.
That's great. Thank you all so much. So Dr. Williams, when you were kind of talking about your introduction, you talked a little bit about kind of Iowa State's response to the pandemic. And so could you talk a little bit about what life looks like now, kind of as we navigate through COVID? What do classes look like and labs and all of that?
Sure. I would say classes and labs look pretty much the same now as they did before the pandemic. One change for us is that in the height of the pandemic, we were trying to limit everyone's exposure. And so we took our afternoon labs for, at the time I was teaching sophomore path, and that used to be a 2-hour lab that would then alternate with the other half of the class. So half the class would come at 1, the second half of the class would come at 3. And in the, so that was the traditional method. And in the extreme part of COVID, we broke that down into 6 different 1-hour labs, so that we would have about 30 students per session. And it was really great in that it was a very small group, and you could go around and you could make sure that everybody had their questions answered, and you could easily see that people who were hiding in the back of the room praying that they wouldn't get asked a question, because I already knew that I'd asked 28 other people and I was going to ask them a question too. So and so that was great. But to do that 6 times in a day and then turn around and do the same thing 2 days later, that was exhausting and not sustainable. So what we learned from that was that we probably didn't need a full 2 hours, that I'm not sure what we were doing during the full 2 hours, but we could actually get it done in a shorter amount of time, but we didn't need to do it 6 times in a row. So now we have 3 sections. Everyone's very efficient with their time. We come in, we see the stuff, we ask questions, and they move on. So it actually, if anything, it helped us improve our teaching in that respect. The lectures are the same. We've always done echo capture, so we've been recording our lectures since forever. That was not really a new thing. So for the classes that I'm involved in, it really didn't change much, other than improving our use of lab time, really. I also teach in the necropsy rotation. There was a time that we were trying to record necropsies as we were doing them. That was maybe not anything I want to repeat, because it just was really time intensive and it's just hard to get a high quality one take video on the necropsy floor, and not something you ever want to see showing up on YouTube. So that was really a struggle, but luckily at Iowa State, the clinical rotations were able to come back before anything else. And I think that was the right thing to do. And from that standpoint, we do now offer, again, it's a little bit of a benefit. We offer a Zoom link for our gross rounds. So every 2 weeks, we have a sort of a final rounds where the students show off their really cool lesions, and we call that organ recital, or, you know, show and smell or something like that. But we now know that not everybody can get downstairs for that, but they still want to see it. So we can just offer that by Zoom, and it works great. So in some respects, we had the technology, we had the equipment that we needed for some of these things. We just had never had a reason to use it. And that was a nice discovery that, hey, we've got the stuff and we can use it. We can reach a broader audience sometimes.
Great, thank you so much. Does anybody else want to kind of chime in on what life or class or clinics look like now, as opposed to maybe pre-pandemic?
Well, I mean, I would just second that deal that, you know, people talk about, we'd like to get back to life before the pandemic, but we learned a lot during the pandemic about how to use technology and how to make more efficient use of students' time, and how to give them access to materials that we didn't do before. And so I think our skill set as teachers expanded dramatically with benefits for the students. So I think there's a lot of it we'd like to keep in some ways, and then use the best of all those tools moving forward in the environment we're at. The other thing is that it gave us an incredible case study on the food animal side with respect to the interaction of society and disease, and that impact again on animals and food animals, and how our food supplies built. And so it really gave us a lot of illustrations of how those things interacted that we thought we understood before, but we certainly understand better now.
Hey, Dr. Carrick, can you maybe just touch real quick on kind of the creative way that you're kind of integrating telemedicine into kind of some of your educational enterprises?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that a minute ago in terms of other opportunities for students. We are doing a telemedicine project now, for example, where we're deliberately searching for naive students who don't know how to do clinical skills, so we can practice conveying those skills via telemedicine. So we're actually using it as an opportunity to get students exposed to more farms on a clinical rotation. So students go out to farms, but they also see everybody else's farm via telemedicine connection. So that just allows us to access a lot more problems and see the environments that those problems are in, and have a discussion about a broader array of things. It really leverages our access in a lot of ways. And we can get the sites to have very high health status or very rigorous biosecurity requirements, because we're not taking 5 or 6 students in a rotation. We're going to send one, and then they're going to sort of report from within. So it's an interesting dynamic, but it's a lot of fun and a way to access more than we would have.
Wonderful, thank you. So this next question, I wonder, Dr. Swami, if you can kind of touch on it, and then again, folks can chime in. So there's a question about, is there more of a competitive or a collaborative atmosphere between students in the classroom? Can you kind of talk about that, especially first year anatomy? I know sometimes those things kind of get ironed out there.
It is both. It all depends on how you want to achieve it. So we do, some students, they do collaborate each other and they learn together. And there are really very competitive students they want to achieve on their own. So both way, so we do not prescribe any type of learning. So we provide an equal opportunity for everyone. And so whatever the help you guys need, certainly we provide that to achieve your goals. Yes, in the anatomy lab, we have small groups within, we divide the entire class into two. And then each group will have another small groups within anatomy lab. Each table will have a specimen. About 4 to 5 students will work in small groups. So that is a great opportunity for them to learn in a collaborative way. And also there will be a bit of competition as well. Okay, we will be dissecting very well compared to the other group. So that is a positive learning approach. That is good. And also they quiz each other. That is one way of learning. Yes, in summary, we have seen the students doing both.
Great, thank you. Any other ideas or anybody else want to chime in on competition versus collaboration?
I'll just say from watching the sophomores and the third year students in the last couple of years, I don't think I've ever seen a group of people come together so well. Particularly what was interesting for the second year class was that they had never all been in the same building or the same room at one time before the start of their second year, just because they could come in small groups, but they couldn't come in as one group. So first day of class, second year, they were meeting the rest of their classmates in some respects. And I've always noticed a sense of support and collaboration among the vet students here, but what those two groups have done for themselves and for each other is truly monumental. And I get really emotional about it because it's, they don't have to do it that way. They could just go to their place and study their stuff. But people are spending a lot of time checking on each other, making sure each other's okay, providing notes, and maybe it's the sense that that positive COVID test could happen to any of us at any moment. So if you're going to withhold your notes, that's your choice. But you might need someone else to provide those notes for you. And I'm not even sure that's the sole basis for it. I think they just really genuinely care about each other. There's a group of third years that they'll slip a note and a bag of cookies in your mailbox if they think you look like you've had a bad day, and that extends to faculty. So it's just, they're a really special group of people.
Thank you. That's awesome. If you want to learn more about that special group of people, our students who are amazing, and you want some more advice on kind of student life, we do have a panel coming up on this February 16th for that. Check your email for that link. So sorry, little plug there, but anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I mean, I'll just add on that. I see students, mostly in the fourth year. And so, especially when we're going out to farms and we're working with food animals, our days can be long and it can be messy. And, people can be physically tired and things like that. But you really get this sense that everybody's attitude is we're in it together. And yet we still maintain an environment, where people can challenge each other and they can, to some degree be competitive in the sense that they sort of drive each other. And a lot of times I think about it in terms of it's sort of the situation where I can pick on my brother, but nobody else better touch him, sort of that mentality of we're going to push each other and help each other and challenge each other. But we're, it's a lot of helping in the end and belonging somewhere and belonging to a group. There's a lot of class pride, I think. And each class has its own personality too, and every student plays a role in developing what that is. So I think those are all elements that are really important to me as a teacher too, because we have that sort of environment where everybody can find their correct blend of collaboration and competition to be successful, right? It's what works for you. It's available here, and you can make it work.
Great, thank you. So we've got time for a couple of questions. So the first question is, and Dr. Grooms, I'll have you start on this if you don't mind. So this question is, what does diversity and inclusion mean to each person on the panel? Do you mind starting us off with that, Dr. Grooms?
Absolutely, Deanna, and thanks for the question. It's a great question. So just a couple things, perspective. So first of all, no doubt that diversity within the veterinary profession is something that is important. In the reality is that our profession is not very diverse. It's certainly has been very much a white dominated profession for years. And that's not good when it comes to really making sure that we serve society, all the diversity within society well, in taking care of people's animals and making sure that human health is taken care of as well. So it's important for our profession to be diverse, and certainly we at Iowa State, as well as every other college of veterinary medicine around the United States, are doing things, working on diversifying both our individual colleges, but also our profession. And certainly that is a priority here at Iowa State University, and we continue to work on diversifying. So it's one thing to diversify, whether it's student population or faculty or staff, but it's another thing then to create that inclusive environment that makes everybody feel welcomed within an environment. And that too is a continuous journey. And it's something that we continue to work on here at Iowa State. It's something that every college of veterinary medicine across the United States continues to work on, and that's creating that inclusive and welcoming environment for everybody, regardless of their background. And we're not perfect. I don't think anybody is perfect. But what I talk to our students about, what I talk to our staff about, what I talk to our faculty about, is continuous improvement. And if you come to our college, you'll see that diversity, equity, inclusion is talked about at every faculty meeting. It's talked about at every staff meeting, talked about at every student meeting. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion committee that continuously works on providing information and training and activities around diversity. We're working as hard as we can to really infuse the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout everything we do here in our college. And it's making a difference. It's making a difference in the diversity of the folks that come to Iowa State, and it's making a difference in making that inclusive environment for everybody.
Great, thank you. Who else would like to weigh in?
Well, I mean, when I think about that issue, one of my first conversations today was with a practitioner, and we have a disease outbreak that's going on in the Midwest. And that practitioner had a farm site. They lost 50% of the pigs that were on that site, and that amounts to about 588,000 meals. And so, and it jeopardizes that farm's livelihood, but also means that there's less food available, and 30% of those meals go out of the United States to another country. So we have big problems, and when you have big problems, you need the very best brains working on those problems, regardless of what package they come in. And that's what I think about in terms of diversity. There are folks out there who have skills to lend to that battle, and it's our job to make them feel comfortable, make them feel welcome, and make sure we're reaching out to get their contribution, because these problems they're important. They play a big role in human health around the world, and we need all hands on deck, and we need every hand on deck. And that's what diversity is about from my perspective.
I'll add, while I'm a pathologist, I'm more equine and companion animal oriented, but this is, I'm sure, true for livestock as well, is that if we only see problems from our own perspective, then we're not going to hear the other questions and hear the other concerns that exist for everybody else in the world. And so we're not doing our full job as veterinary practitioners if we're only answering questions for one subset of the population. And then there's the issue of role modeling. I mean, it really matters to see somebody who looks like you doing the thing that you want to do. And for me, I personally never saw a female faculty member get tenure until I did. I did it anyway because I'm kind of stubborn, but you know, it did matter. It would have been nice to have seen people go, and let me clarify that. I hadn't seen a woman with children get tenure. I saw several women without children get tenure, but you know, it matters to know that there's a road in front of you and that people have done that. And we have a lot of work to do in our profession to get there, but I can genuinely say that that work is being taken very seriously here at Iowa State, and we're trying to make as much momentum as we can.
I quickly add and echo other panelists' views on this, and also their experience and their efforts in creating this inclusive environment in the campus. So being a person of color, I felt home, this university, this college, this department, and also students. They, 5 years after I started teaching here, I was voted by students for Zoetis Distinguished Veterinary Teacher Award. They didn't see me as a person of different color when they voted. They just voted for the merit, and that is something great about this place is inclusiveness and recognizing other people's culture and respecting them. That is great about this college.
Great, thank you all for that. That's a wonderful question, and I love your insight on that. So we are wrapping up our time here, and I think we would have enough questions to go another 2 hours, but we've learned from those long veterinary pathology labs, right?
Right.
So we will wrap it up with one last question from our panel, or to our panelists, which has been asked a bunch in our Q&A box as well. If you could give one piece of advice to that incoming first year veterinary student, what would it be? And if somebody has their answer, you can kind of wave at me and we'll go with you first, or you can think about it for a little bit and I'll volunteer somebody too. So, okay, go ahead, Dr. Williams.
I'll go because I'm a nerd. I would say that if you don't have a health habit or something established that you really enjoy yet, do it now. Find your time of the day or the week that you like to do it the most, and then set that as your protected time for an hour a day or an hour every couple of days, whatever it takes, that you're going to go for a walk your dog, do yoga, do ballet, ride your bike, do that thing. And so that way you've got that constant now that you can take into vet school. And even, in vet school, sometimes things get a little busy, and maybe on a big test day, you skip it. But get right back into it, because that's going to be really, really helpful for you.
Go ahead, Dr. Grooms.
So I would just like to encourage everybody to understand and then embrace the diversity of this profession. And when I say diversity, I'm talking about career options and opportunities. The more and more that I get to interact with our alumni around the country and around the world and learn about what they are doing besides clinical medicine, and certainly we have a lot of alumni that are doing clinical medicine, whether it's companion animal medicine or food animal medicine or equine medicine. But the incredible things or opportunities that their training here at Iowa State has allowed them to do beyond clinical medicine is just incredible. So it's everything from being CEOs of companies to being advocates in Washington D.C. To being part of really robust, successful research programs, and the list goes on and on. So I would encourage you to look broadly at what the profession offers, take opportunities to explore those, because you never know where your career may take you. I can tell you that 35 years ago, when I graduated from Ohio State University, I never thought I'd be sitting in this seat today. And I wouldn't have been sitting here if I hadn't kind of explored other opportunities when I was in veterinary school at Ohio State. So just take that opportunity to really embrace the breadth that our profession has to offer to you.
Thank you. Let's see, Dr. Carricker, are you ready?
Well, sure. I mean, I think the first thing I would say is listen to what Dr. Williams and Dr. Grooms said, because those are fantastic. I mean, if I could add anything to that, I mean, you know, pursue your interests, and if you have an interest in a particular topic, I think we touched on this earlier. You know, seek those people out and introduce yourself. Find a reason to drop by periodically and say hello. Everybody's busy, so don't worry about whether they're busy or not. But I think in a lot of ways that there's a lot of opportunities generated by just being present. We have students that study in our hallway because there's an outside chance that somebody will go streaking out of their office with a pair of coveralls headed to a farm, and they'll get in on that. And so I just think there's a lot of value in finding out those people, and you're not going to get rebuffed. You're not going to get a negative response, because when you're part of the class here, I mean, we care about your success, and your success is our success. It's important to us to see you succeed, and that'd be my advice, is take advantage of that. Introduce yourself. I'm a huge introvert. It's probably obvious, but I'm a huge introvert, and so that's tough for me. I had to literally learn how to initiate those kind of conversations and talk with people. So if you think that's tough to do and you're shy, just come see me and we'll talk about how tough it is to start those conversations, and then we'll go introduce you to the people who are doing stuff you want to do. So that'd be my advice.
Great, Dr. Tipa Swami, that means that you're giving our final word here.
Okay, I know. You guys will be coming to this college with big dreams. So if you are offered a position, the placement here, it is by choice, but it is not by chance. So that means you are chosen for this position here in the College of Veterinary Medicine. So it means a lot to you and also a lot to us. So we work on the principles of trust and mutual respect. Now, one thing when I have seen when the students start in first year, first semester, they come with lots of dreams, lots of hopes, and at the same time, you must be prepared for the hard work and organizing yourself. And there will be, good days and maybe many bad days for some of you if you are not get organized. So be prepared for the hard work, and don't let go your dream just because of small, obstacles that you will come across. So maybe your first exam may not be very good as you might be expected. So be prepared for all those, and be prepared to learn from mistakes if you make any mistakes. So if not, always come with an open mind. What else I can do to achieve the goals? So there are always alternative paths. So come with an open mind. Be alert, get organized.
Wonderful, thank you. One of my favorite parts of the year is to do this faculty panel. And honestly, I always take different nuggets. I'm not a veterinarian, not a vet student, obviously, but I always take little nuggets that I learned so much from you all. So thank you so much for being here and imparting your wisdom to the students that we have online. We did have a couple of clarification kind of questions or housekeeping questions. One was, are we providing tours? And we are. So go ahead and go on our website for that. You might see one of our panelists walking down the hall, and you can, wave at them or have a conversation with them as well. There are about 40 questions that we didn't get a chance to get to. So I'm going to put my email address in the chat. If there was a question that you really want to know the answer to, please feel free to email me. If I think it would be better answered by one of the panelists, I might kind of bring them into the conversation too. But please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions that you have. I know this is kind of the stressful time of just waiting and counting down the days, hours, and minutes. Somebody's got to have a timer probably going, you know, counting down. But hang in there, contact us if you have questions. And thank you for your time this evening, learning a little bit more about Iowa State. So with that, I'll hang out for just a second in case anybody needs to go through the chat and snag any links that we posted. But I will let our panelists get on with their evening. Hopefully you stay warm. It's cold here in Iowa today. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Deanna, for leading this. And I just want to say, hope you can see, go Cyclones, okay?
Go Cyclones.
Cyclone.
Thank you very much. We'll
Yeah.
see you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Good night.